SEO Mastermind.
Hey there, and welcome to SEO Masterminds. My name is Skylar, last name Mew, and I wanted to go ahead and take this real quick opportunity to kind of explain to you guys who I am and the purpose of the group, since this will be the first video. So, to go ahead and start off, I do work in the digital marketing sphere at CS Design Studios as the Chief Digital Marketing Analyst. I am responsible for overseeing about 200 to 300 different client domains and websites and properties, and kind of formulating the digital strategy around what we do with those websites, how we market the clients across the internet, more or less, whether it's social media, whether it's PPC, whether it's SEO. And because of that, I wanted to go ahead and create a group where we specifically talk about how SEO pertains to Google, just because I have a lot of access to these particular niches, and I'm a huge proponent of jumping into the Google sphere and their ecosystem. With that said, I just want to go over some house cleaning, as I like to call it, real quick. First and foremost, a lot of SEO groups can be really toxic, and I'm really just trying to prevent that, guys. So if we could be respectful and mindful of each other and just really act like adults, SEO does have the propensity to kind of bring out different sides of people because they feel so vehement about, doing one thing in contrast to another. But it really, everything depends on SEO. And so we just have to remember to be respectful of each other at all times. And that is the best way forward with the group. I know I've stated it in some comments, and I just want to reiterate that at 1,000 people, I will close this group. And the reason for that is not to single anyone out, but more so to make sure that the group stays really lean with SEO enthusiasts, and because I'd like to provide some, personal information in terms of what I'm working on in my life as it pertains to SEO. I'm doing a lot of experiments, a lot of strategy. I'm working with different people, and I want to give you guys all that information, and how you redistribute it is completely up to you. But for me personally, I want to make sure it only goes out to a certain amount of people, and that the group is just kept very, very lean. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into our first video. I'm really excited to be here today talking to you guys, and we'll get this going. If there's any questions in regards to anything I'm talking about, just please leave it in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to address it. And I know the other people here too are super knowledgeable. You know what I'm saying? If you have a question, drop it in the comments and somebody will get to you. All right. So let's jump right in this. I want to talk to you guys today about a few different things. The first thing is buying a domain. A lot of people come to me and they say, "Hey, Skylar, listen, I don't know what domain to pick." And I look at them and I say, okay, well, we got two different options. Are you attempting to create a brand, or are you attempting to create an affiliate blog, or what are you attempting to kind of create? You know what I mean? And if they say a brand, I'll say, okay, then go with a brand name. Uber.com, Lyft.com. You'll find me talking about those entities a lot, by the way, just because I'm familiar with them. If they want to create a business or a service or something like that, or an affiliate blog, or whatever the case may be, the strategy is just a little bit different, because usually branding, you need a lot of money, a lot of time, and much more than SEO. If you're creating affiliates blogs, or maybe just something that you're only working on a website for at the time, then there's things that you can do to kind of facilitate that process in a positive way, rather than just going after a branded name. For instance, I work with a company called Quick Fix Phone Repair, and their website is quickfixiPhoneRepair.com, right? Makes sense. If you're going for an affiliate blog, you can call it something clever, and I'll kind of discuss that today, because that's what I'm going to be starting my new website as. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I've already selected what I want to create an affiliate blog about after doing some research and kind of figuring out what I know about, what's important to me, and what I have the time for. Those are three things that you really want to think about. Affiliate blogging can take up a ton of time, guys, like thousands of hours, to be honest. So what I try and do is I try and niche down, right? Niching down is easy. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to start by purchasing a domain. And the domain that I'm going to purchase, I believe it's free still if no one's bought it, is campingcanyon.com, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google Domains. And now the reason that I prefer using Google Domains is because it's a part of their ecosystem. And this is huge, guys. Apple's trying to create an ecosystem. Microsoft is trying to create an ecosystem. Google's trying to create an ecosystem. If you jump on board with Google's ecosystem, they're going to reward you. It's just the way it is. If you jump on board with Apple's ecosystem, they're going to reward you. It's just the way it is. So the thing about Google is they own their own DNS and their own registrar. And what that means exactly is that a DNS is a domain name service provider. And what they do is they provide domain names to you, right? So when you purchase a domain name through Google, it is indexed, right? Indexed into their repository of DNSs. I'm not saying it's indexed into their SERPs. It's indexed into their repository of DNSs, which means that they're now associating who you are with your domain, and they know that your domain has been purchased and it might be ready for indexing, right? So you get these benefits right off the top, possibly. Nobody really knows for sure, but in my A/B tests and some other people, if you verify them, will say the exact same things. So account. So I'm going to move over to here, which is my other account. I'm going to add campingcanyon.com to my cart. I'm going to go to my cart. And I'm going to turn privacy protection off. All right. Now, I know a lot of people are against this. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be hassled. They don't want to deal with anything that has to do with being solicited to, right? But here's the deal. When you leave your privacy protection on, you are creating a signal to Google that you don't want to be found, right? Any company that's worth their weight in salt, they want people to endorse them. They want people to know who the founders are. They want people to know who the owners are. They want people to know all about them because they're a real company. They're making real efforts. They're spending real money, and they want people to know who is responsible for that particular industry, niche, website, everything, right? So I turn my privacy protection off. I don't want anything to do with that. And in my A and B test, depending on the website that you have, especially in medical niches, you want to leave this off because you want people to know who you are. You want them to be able to find you, right? You want them to make the associations. You don't want to hide yourself. Pretty simple in theory. So let's go ahead and check out. All right, so here's my information, or my old information rather. Skylar Mew, etc., etc. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this email to one that I will probably never use. See what I'm doing here? Let me take a look real quick here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it campingcanyon@gmail.com, right? I'm going to make that Gmail because I want to own it, but I'm probably never going to check it. If I want to create an email on my website for people to contact me at, it's going to be info@campingcanyon.com or sales@campingcanyon.com or whatever the case may be, but it's not going to be campingcanyon@gmail.com. All right, I'm going to save and continue. My address is also wrong. Let me take a look real quick here. All right, here's another little tip. When it comes to your number, just change it by 1. And I'm going to go ahead and buy this. All right, great. So I got campingcanyon.com. I put a faulty address on it. I put a fake phone number, and I put an email that I'll probably never check. And what that does is it allows me to keep privacy protection off while also not getting bugged or bothered by anybody who's going to get this information, because personally, I don't want to deal with it, right? Okay, so next, let's jump into setting up our DNS, because this is where the SEO really begins. I mean, it kind of began when we purchased our domain because I'm creating an affiliate site for niche down products in camping, which I'll go into in a different video. But this is actually where the SEO really starts to take place, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my DNS. I'm going to grab this IP address. Now, the reason that I'm using GoDaddy is because I'm not sure if this actual domain is going to take off. I'm not sure if I have the time to allocate to it or the money. So I'm using GoDaddy at this point because it's a very cheap hosting service. I can get the website set up very cheaply. I can start working on it. And if it becomes profitable over time, I will move it to a different host and have a different box for it to live in. A different place. We call it a box in tech terms, but a different hosting platform that's more efficient, that's faster, that's more robust, that has more features and options and things of that nature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up my DNS. Now, a lot of people get confused when they're setting up their DNS, right? They're like, I don't know the difference between a C name and an A record. Well, let's talk about it, okay? A C name is literally a canonical name for your IP address or your domain, because remember, your IP address points to your domain. Now, www dot is a canonical, right? It is a subdomain of your root domain. So if you plan on using www dot, you're going to use a CNAME record. If you plan on using your pretty URL with no www dot in front of it, you're going to use two A records, and I'll show you how to set that up. I don't really prefer www dot. It's just more for people to enter, and to me it looks ugly, but if that's what you want, I'll show you how to do that as well. All right, so let's take a look real quick here. This at means that it is pointing at the IP address. So we're gonna make sure it's an A record, and we're gonna put the IP address from my host panel with GoDaddy. All right, perfect. So this has been saved. Now, what we're gonna do is we're also gonna do this. Now, a lot of people will change this to a CNAME, like I was stating before. And if you wanna use www dot as your prefix, your subdomain prefix to your root domain, then change this to CNAME. If you don't wanna use that, if you want a pretty URL, then you leave it as an A record. And what you do is you take the www, you forward it as an A record to the IP address. All right, see what we did there? So we have the at symbol, which means it's pointing to the domain name, and we have the www, which means it's also resolving to the domain name as an A record and not a canonical name, or other words, CNAME. Perfect. So this has been taken care of. And like I said, guys, this is where the SEO starts, because the CNAME is literally a canonical name. So depending on how your canonicals are set up and how you're going to be moving forward through the presentation of your website in terms of its www prefix or non, this is the appropriate way to set it up. This is where SEO starts. Now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look for add-on domain. All right. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put campingcanyon.com. All right, so I got campingcanyon.com set up with the subdomain of Camping Canyon. There is no www prefix. There is none on my websites because I don't use www. If you were going to do that, you would make the subdomain www, right? But we're not doing that. And this would align it with your DNS. So let's go ahead and change that back. I'm going to add the domain. All right, perfect. So I got all this information set up now, right? I went into my DNS, if you recall. I made sure that the at pointed to my IP address, and I made sure the www pointed to my IP address. I came into my hosting panel, and I did an add-on domain, and I made sure that there was no subdomain. So now we have the DNS aligned with the hosting, and now we need to align it with the website. Makes sense, right? That is how you move from the top to the bottom in terms of setting up your canonicals. If you don't do this correctly, it is possible that Google will become confused. Not necessarily. They're getting pretty good, but why risk it, right? It's just easier this way, and you know that it's been done correctly. So I'm going to go back to my cPanel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use WordPress. I build a lot of websites in WordPress, especially affiliate sites, because it's just easy. I'm going to go to my applications. I think I have quite a bit right now. I'm sorry, not my applications. I'm going to go to application browser, and I'm going to go to WordPress, and I'm going to install this application, and I'm going to install it at Camping Canyon. And you see down here, these are where your if you remember, your DNS and your hosting resolve to. So when you set this up, make sure to use whatever it is that you'll be using to move forward with your canonicals. For me, it's going to be HTTP. I know a lot of people say go with HTTPS, but for affiliate sites, it's give or take. It depends on if you're collecting information like emails and whatnot. I usually don't, but at some point, if this website does become profitable, I'll move it to an HTTPS, no doubt, because it is a signal and it does facilitate trust to Google and the user. For now, we'll go ahead and select this. I'm going to remove this blog because I don't want it installed there. I'm going to change this to my first name, and I'm going to add the most advanced password in the history of passwords. All right, success at victorymedia.com. Website blog title, you can put anything you want here. It doesn't really matter. You can change it later. Camping Canyon. I'll probably try and think of a witty website tagline later, and I'm going to install this, okay? So what is going to happen now is a WordPress environment is going to be set up for this particular domain. And so we've aligned the DNS with the hosting panel with WordPress. Now we've started from the top, and we've gone all the way through the steps in terms of our canonicals to kind of prime the domain name and the DNS and the IP address for exactly what we want it to do. And in my terms, it's without the www. Let's go ahead and enter this website real quick. I don't do the wizard. You guys can if you want. It's not something that I actively like to do. So let's talk about the first things that I do when I get in here. There's a few things you want to do on every website. The first thing you want to do is head over to the settings and go to general. Now what you want to do in general is you want to make sure that your website address URL and your site address is set up exactly how the DNS resolves to the host, resolves to WordPress, right? So that way you have no conflicts in the canonical resources or tags that WordPress is going to be putting on your website. That looks good. I'll go through here and I'll check some other settings. Everything looks good. It's going to be a static page, probably going to be home. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'll have a different blog page. I'm going to head over here to permalinks. And what I do immediately is I do a category post name structure. I might be creating parent pages. I might be creating themes and schema and scheme structures for my particular blog posts. So my custom structure is going to be this, and this is what I recommend from now on. If you take a look at Google and what they're indexing, you will find that it is becoming more prevalent than not for Google to use websites that are built with a virtual silo and a physical silo. So I'm going to keep mine at a physical silo, and I'm going to go ahead and save this change just to make sure. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to jump over here to plugins, and there's a few plugins I always install off the bat. I delete all these because I don't care. WordPress is actually pretty secure now. I will leave this one just because a lot of brute force still goes on to attack your website, and this will limit that, right? I'm going to go through the add new process. First thing I'm going to add is the classic editor. This classic editor is imperative to me just because I come from very old versions of WordPress, and quite frankly, I need it to navigate my way around WordPress or I get lost. Whether you install it is up to you. Now, I also am a huge proponent of Yoast. I know a lot of people are against Yoast, but I've never had a problem with them, and I've been using them for years and years and years, the free version, and I've just never had an issue. I really haven't. So I'm going to keep continuing to use Yoast. Other people can use whatever they use, but I'm going to do what I know to work for me, and I don't have to learn another program. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this. All right, awesome. So we got the classic editor, we got Yoast set up, and what we can do now is kind of prime our website for the best results possible. And the way I'm going to do that is through an htaccess file setting in Yoast, right? So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look for gzip compression. And I believe Yoast will pull it up and give me the information on it, or GTmetrix. GTmetrix and Yoast are probably the first places you want to go. My website is on Apache. I don't use anything else. Even when I move hosts, I make sure that they have Apache. I'm going to come over here to SEO. I'm going to come here down to Tools. And I'm going to go to File Editor. And right here, I'm just going to paste this code in, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to compress anything I put on the website. Okay? And the reason that you want to do that is because you can serve compressed resources much quicker than you can non-compressed resources. So I'm also going to create a robots text file. And I'm going to allow everything but what WordPress defaults not to allow. So let me go ahead and save this. All right, perfect. So I got that set up. Here we go. So usually you want to do access plus 1 month. The expiration headers are what cache the user end of your website so that it can load quicker if they return to it. If it's an application of JavaScript, access plus 1 year, text CSS plus 1 year. Obviously that's subject to change. You do what you feel comfortable. I usually leave these settings exactly as they are. This is pretty standard right here. And if you take a look, it looks like my changes are not saving to the htaccess file. Oh, that time it did. All right, let me try one more thing. My gzip compression did not change. Or I'm sorry, it did not append. It was removed. Save changes. All right, there we go. Now, with this done, we have our expiration headers and we have our gzip enabled. So this is going to make the site super fast, and it should be the first thing you do before you add any content to the website, so that the second you start adding content, it's all deflated, it's all compressed, your expiration headers are working, etc., etc. Now, let's jump into a good visual builder, because I know that there's a lot of debate over this. I've used, Elementor, I've used WordPress Bakery, that's now Visual Studio or whatever it is. I've used Thrive, I've used Divi, I've used everything under the sun, right? And a lot of those particular visual builders come with bloatware, tons and tons of bloatware, and it's not something I want. So I have found something that I use, and I recommend using it because it's super simple and it kind of works almost exactly to any other visual builder out there, okay? You can build any type of website you want. It doesn't matter what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce that to you. It's not something that not a lot of people know, and I consider it honestly one of my best kept secrets. So let's take a look here. What I'm going for today is UTheme. And UTheme is a wonderful builder. I urge you to take a look at it. You can build literally any theme that you want. They're all responsive. They have parallax options. They have CSS fly left to right options. They have, literally, you can set up your website any way you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign in and download this. And then I'm going to install it on my website. And after I'm done installing it, I'm gonna show you what the speed scores are out of the box with everything we've done thus far. All right, so WordPress theme, download. It's only 7.2 megabytes. It's pretty small for a builder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Appearance. I'm going to go to Themes. I'm going to go to Add New. I'm going to upload the theme. And I'm going to drag and drop it. And I'm going to install now. It's a very quick install because it's only 7 megabytes. You don't have to sit around waiting for it very long at all. It'll install and it comes pretty much completely optimized, and I will get into that in further videos because it is very extensive, and I do want to show you guys how to use it if you're not familiar with it. But for right now, all I want you to see is the out-of-the-box optimization that comes with this particular builder and how incredible it is. So should be done any second. We're just waiting for campingcanyon.com, which is obviously limited by GoDaddy. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of GoDaddy. I prefer WordPress engine or SiteGround, but I usually don't move my websites over there due to the cost until they become profitable in some way, shape, or form, whether it's ads, whether I'm getting a ton of email registrations, whether there's more people than the bandwidth or the site host can handle, or whatever the case may be. So now that we have a theme installed, we're going to activate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to deactivate all these old ones, because what these do is they just create more resources on your website, and we don't really need that. We want to keep this lean and as thin as possible. Google just eats up lean websites. That's why HTML, raw HTML, PHP indexes so well still. So we want to get this as close to that as possible. So now that we have this installed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to gtmetrics.com. And I'm going to run a test on my site. We're going to see how lean it is right out of the box. We're going to check for HTTP headers. We're going to see how fast GoDaddy is. We're going to see how many kilobytes are on page. All that good stuff. Just real quick. Look at that. 0.8 seconds. Total page size with nothing on it is 187 kilobytes and 12 requests. That's with Yoast installed. That's with two other plugins installed, and that's with the visual builder. So it's just a great out-of-the-box way to do things. And when you couple it with the gzip optimization and the expiration headers, you just get really great results, guys. And I can't talk about it enough because a lot of people go and buy these themes and they won't take the time to build their website or learn how. And what ends up happening is you have to pay somebody to re-optimize these themes because somebody else didn't do a good job, or their coding wasn't done correctly, or their CSS files weren't compressed and minified, or whatever the case may be. So my philosophy is if you start with something good, you're going to end with something good, right? As a recap, what we did today is we went ahead and went through the process of setting up a domain for whatever purpose we think that we're going to be using the domain for. I'm not a huge fan of exact match domains, but I try and get close and I try and be clever with something that people remember. Camping Canyon. People are probably going to remember it. It's kind of like Code Canyon, right? If you've ever purchased anything from there, it's kind of where I got the idea. Plus, it also has the word camping in it. So if you can get a domain with one of your keywords in it and something else that's similarly related, but also kind of fun, it'll stick in people's head a little better, and it'll allow you to brand further down the road, if that makes sense. After we got our domain and we figured that out, we purchased it through Google. And if you remember, Google has their own DNS system and their own registration, and they've probably already been cued that I purchased a new domain, and it might even be set up for indexing. I don't know. I didn't turn off indexing on my particular website that I'm going to be working on because I prefer to have a live environment as I'm working. It kind of shows Google that you're continually adding effort and putting new content in it and on it as you go along, right? So in terms of the DNS, the domain, we left the private registration, off. I put in a fake address, a fake email, and a fake number. That way nobody can contact me. And I'm sorry, the email isn't fake. It just goes to a Gmail. I'll try and register it right now after I jump off this video. After we did that, we matched the DNS records to what we wanted in terms of canonicals, C names, A records to our host, right? And then after we matched those to our host, we matched that to our WordPress install. And then after we did that on our WordPress install, we installed this super lean theme builder with these plugins that we're all using, and everything's looking real good. We got an on-page score of 97%, and I know nothing's on it right now, but guys, this is a wonderful score for an out-of-the-box theme builder. Trust me, I've tested them like over and over and over again. New ones come out, I test them. They never seem to work as good. So as time goes on and I continue to build this site, you will keep seeing the value of UTheme, right? Okay. So we've taken care of all that. This video series, I'm going to go ahead and conclude right here on this note. I hope all this makes sense. If you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments, whether it's in group, whether it's on YouTube, wherever it is, right? And I'll be more than happy to get back to them as soon as possible. I hope this has kind of invoked some sort of curiosity in the way forward that will be going in Google SEO Masterminds, and that it has enlightened you in some way or another. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of Google SEO Mastermind. I couldn't do it without you guys.
Google SEO Mastermind.